So the last little strip is the same thing. From the corner of that last one that I taped down, I'm gonna push my ruler over 4.5 inches. So I'm trying to make sure that my ruler is still square to the center front and the bottom edge of my ruler is lining up with that little corner there. And then I'm gonna make a line 4.5 inches out. And then there's just one last thing we need to do once we take this down. I need a really big one. 4.5 inches. There we go. So the last thing I have to do is I need to put half of a flare on the side seam. Does that make sense? So I have this is kind of like a circle, like it's a hole, and this is 1/4 of it, right? So this is the center front. We usually don't put a flare on center front because it'll make you look like you have more of a belly than, well, nobody wants more of a belly. But we start flaring it as it turns the waist. So this is the side seam. So we have a flare that looks like it's in front, and then we have a couple going around the side, but we don't want the actual side seam to hang flat. So we're going to put half of one of these on the front side and half on the back side. So half of 4.5 is 2 1/4, right? So I'm going to measure out 2 1/4. I'm going to make a mark. And then I'm going to go from there. I got to go straight up to the waist, I believe. Yeah. So I have an L square around here somewhere. Is my L square over there? Anyway, you can imagine. Oh, okay, cool.
You go straight up to the what?
Straight up to the waist.
So that is divided into 11?
What's that? So you see how I'm cutting off some of the hip? I can't see that. Oops, I gotta go all the way out here. I forgot. So out to my new line that I drew, and I'm gonna go straight up to the waist. For that I need to stand up. A little wrinkle in my tape is giving me trouble. So what ends up happening often is that you lose a little bit of the hip. And it's really evident here on this one. So like a quarter of an inch of the hip comes off. And that's okay because look at all this opening up that happened here, right? And this is on the straight grain, but as you come around this angle, it starts to be on the bias. So this is bigger and stretchier. And so it's gonna fall over the hip just fine. So it's okay for us to cut that curve off. So once I've got that, all I need to do, and we'll talk about how to do it next week, I need to add seam allowance, notch it, but first I need to smooth out my curves. So we'll talk about how to do that next week. So you do this exact same procedure on both, and I'll write on here 4.5, 4.5, 4.5, 2 1/4, but that's the procedure. I think it's pretty straightforward, yeah?